Phosphor Dot friends, Earl at thelogbook.com. We're back in the arcade playing a real oldie but a goodie for spooky season. And to be fair, we're not actually playing the arcade ROM. This is a very accurate Windows simulation of the 1976 Exidy arcade game Death Race. Now, a lot of game historians will point you toward this game as being where the debate over video game violence started. And they're probably not wrong. As you can see, this menu screen, which did not appear in the arcade game because the arcade game simply didn't have that resolution, this implementation of the game running on a Windows PC allows for one player or two players. It was originally a two-player game. Hit gremlins for points, use reverse for quicker getaway after crash. Let's give it a shot as one player, and you'll kind of get the essence of this game pretty quick. You're driving the car, you're trying to run over what the artwork on the game assures you are zombies. Although really they're just kind of stick figures. In 1976 you didn't have the kind of graphical ability to distinguish between quote-unquote zombies and just normal folks. And that is where the debate over the violence in Death Race comes from. Was this game encouraging people to run over hapless pedestrians? If it wasn't encouraging you to do so very fast. And of course, each pedestrian you hit results in a grave marker that then becomes an impassable barrier. You have a time limit. You're trying to score the most points in that amount of time. Now, these rankings, again, this is specific to this Windows implementation of the game and was not something that appeared on screen in the original. Let's play again and give you a closer look. And this sparked such debate that an episode of the Phil Donahue talk show was devoted to it. The original game had steering wheels, of course, since this is a home computer version, it uses the arrow keys. You steer with the left and right keys, and you do forward and reverse with the up and down arrow keys. For a fairly simple game, Death Race earned a huge amount of notoriety, although by modern standards, pretty tame. But of course, as we all know, it doesn't take much for certain people to, decide they don't like a thing, and all of a sudden they're 100% all in against it. I'm not going to make any claim that this version of the game, which by the way is on itch.io, and I will post a link to it in the notes on YouTube. I'm not going to say this is 100% accurate, but since this game is not presently working in MAME, this is about as good as it gets for bringing the Death Race experience home. The original game, part of the reason it is not working in MAME is that this was a discrete logic game, and so there really is not a ROM per se to port over to MAME. So even if it is running in MAME, it will essentially be a simulation. But this was really kind of the flashpoint early on of the video game violence debate, because you were running over people or zombies, and of course you were running over people because grave markers appeared, and it always seems so innocent now, and yet at the time it was a big protest. Were they protesting too much about the wrong thing? That is a question that I suspect will never be answered. But you could argue that Death Race was the first horror-based video game, therefore why it deserves recognition in our celebration of spooky season. And it was definitely the first one to get as much attention as it did for something other than its gameplay or its graphics. I mean, yes, the gameplay and graphics played into it, but I think this was a case where people objected to the theme. And that was really their bone to pick with the whole thing.